The recording chamber hummed with tension as Admiral Kextar of the Galactic Coalition Navy settled into his seat. His 6 arms trembled slightly, the chitinous plates along his spine clicking together in a nervous rhythm that betrayed his usually composed demeanor. Across from him, the interview panel of senior officials waited with barely contained curiosity. They had heard whispers, fragments of reports, but never a full account of what had happened during the human conflict. "State your name and rank for the record," requested Chancellor Vorth, her crystalline voice cutting through the silence. "Admiral Kextar, former commander of the 47th Deep Space Fleet, veteran of 12 major campaigns across 4 galactic sectors." His voice carried the weight of centuries of military service, yet something had fundamentally changed in his tone. Where once there was pride, now there was only haunted knowledge. The Chancellor leaned forward, her translucent form shimmering with interest. "Admiral, you've requested this emergency session to discuss the recent human engagement. Your preliminary reports were concerning. Please elaborate on why you believe the Coalition should immediately cease all hostile actions against this species." Kextar's mandibles clicked together, a sign of deep distress among his kind. "Because, honored Chancellor, fighting humans isn't war as we understand it. It's something far more dangerous. It's evolution through violence, and they get stronger with every battle we bring to them." The room fell silent except for the gentle hum of recording devices capturing every word. The Admiral's reputation was impeccable, his strategic mind legendary throughout the Coalition. If he was advocating for immediate cessation of hostilities, the implications were staggering. "I've studied warfare for over 300 standard years," Kextar continued, his voice growing steadier as he found his rhythm. "I've commanded fleets against the hive minds of Sector 7, broken the siege of crystalline fortresses, and orchestrated the defeat of the mechanical armies of the Void Builders. In every case, warfare followed predictable patterns. Resources, tactics, technology, and numbers determined outcomes. But humans, they operate by different rules entirely." He paused, reaching for a data pad with one of his lower arms. "When we first encountered their species 3 cycles ago, our intelligence suggested they were barely space-capable. A young civilization, recently emerged from their home world, technologically inferior by several orders of magnitude. Our strategic computers calculated a 97.3% probability of swift victory if hostilities became necessary. Yet here you are, recommending immediate withdrawal," observed General Thrix, his metallic voice carrying a note of skepticism. "What changed between those initial assessments and now?" The Admiral's eyes, compound organs capable of seeing across multiple spectrums, seemed to dim with memory. "Everything changed, General. Everything. Our first mistake was assuming they would fight like civilized species fight like us. We expected negotiations, formal declarations, structured engagements with clear objectives and reasonable terms for surrender. Instead, we discovered that humans have a concept they call total war. And it's unlike anything in our military doctrines." He activated his data pad, projecting holographic displays of battle footage into the center of the room. The images showed space battles, but they were chaotic, unpredictable, filled with tactical maneuvers that seemed to defy logic. "Our first engagement was at the Tau Ceti system. We sent a standard diplomatic fleet, 3 heavy cruisers and support vessels to establish communication protocols and discuss territorial boundaries. Standard procedure for first contact with any potentially hostile species." The hologram shifted to show the initial meeting. The humans met us with what appeared to be a single outdated vessel. Our scans indicated it was barely holding together, probably a converted cargo hauler with improvised weapons. The recording showed the human ship approaching, seemingly outmatched and vulnerable. We transmitted standard surrender terms, offering generous conditions if they would simply acknowledge Coalition authority in the disputed systems. Their response was— Kextar paused, searching for words. Their response was to ram their ship directly into our flagship's shield generators. Gasps echoed around the chamber. Ramming attacks were considered a desperate last resort, typically employed only when all other options had been exhausted. For it to be a first response was unprecedented. But that wasn't the most disturbing part, the Admiral continued. The most disturbing part was that it worked. Not because it destroyed our ship. We had redundant systems and the damage was manageable. It worked because in those few seconds when our shields fluctuated, They transmitted a signal. We thought it was a distress call, a final message to their homeworld. We were wrong. The hologram shifted again, showing long-range scanner data from the hours following the initial engagement. Within 6 standard hours, human vessels began appearing throughout the system. Not military ships, mind you. Civilian craft, cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining vessels, even what appeared to be family transports. All of them had been rapidly converted into fighting ships. Chancellor Vorth leaned back, her crystalline form refracting the light in patterns that indicated deep thought. You're suggesting they mobilized their entire civilian population for combat? That's highly irregular but not necessarily effective against trained military forces. That's what we thought too, Kextar replied, his mandibles clicking rapidly now. We prepared for a series of small skirmishes, expected to disable their improvised fleet within hours. But the humans taught us something that night. They taught us that sometimes quantity has a quality all its own, especially when combined with absolute determination and complete disregard for conventional military thinking. The Admiral stood, beginning to pace as his agitation grew. They didn't fight ship-to-ship duels. They didn't maintain formation integrity. They didn't follow any recognizable tactical doctrine. Instead, they swarmed. Hundreds of small vessels, each one unpredictable, each one piloted by someone willing to die to take even one of our ships with them. The holographic display showed the chaos that followed. Swarms of small human craft darting between coalition vessels like angry insects, impossible to target effectively, too numerous to destroy quickly. We lost 3 ships that night. Not to superior technology or brilliant strategy, but to sheer, overwhelming numbers and a willingness to sacrifice that we couldn't comprehend. But surely, interjected General Thrix, once you adapted your tactics, once you understood their methods, subsequent engagements became more manageable. Admiral Kextar's laugh was bitter, a sound that sent chills through the assembled officials. That's the truly terrifying thing about humans, General. They adapt faster than we do. Every tactic we developed to counter their swarm attacks, they had a counter ready within days. Every advantage we thought we had, they found ways to neutralize or turn against us. He returned to his seat, the weight of his experiences clearly visible in his posture. I'm here today because the coalition leadership needs to understand what we're truly facing. This isn't just another territorial dispute or resource conflict. Humans don't just fight wars, they transform through them. Every battle makes them more dangerous, more unpredictable, more capable. The recording chamber fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. If Admiral Kextar was right, the coalition faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before, one that grew stronger through conflict itself. Chancellor Vorth gestured for the Admiral to continue, her translucent form shifting to deeper blue hues that indicated intense focus. Admiral, you mentioned that humans adapt quickly. Please provide specific examples of this adaptation in action. Kextar activated another series of holographic displays, these showing tactical analyses and battle progression charts. The second major engagement occurred 3 weeks after Tau Ceti. We had reinforced our fleet, brought in specialized anti-swarm weaponry, and developed new formation tactics specifically designed to counter their numerical advantage. The hologram showed the coalition fleet in tight defensive formations, point defense systems creating overlapping fields of fire. We were confident that our preparations would prove decisive. The humans approached with what appeared to be the same chaotic swarm tactics they had used before. General Thrix leaned forward, studying the tactical display. It appears you had them completely surrounded and outgunned. What went wrong? Nothing went wrong with our plan, Kextar replied grimly. The plan worked perfectly against the tactics they had used before. But humans had spent those 3 weeks analyzing our response to their first attack. They knew we would cluster our ships for mutual support. They knew we would focus on point defense, and they planned accordingly. The display shifted to show the actual engagement. The human swarm approached as expected, but as they entered optimal firing range, something unprecedented happened. Instead of swarming randomly, they suddenly organized into precise formations. Ships that had appeared to be barely functional civilian craft suddenly demonstrated coordination that would have impressed our elite squadrons. The coalition officers watched in stunned silence as the recording showed human vessels executing complex maneuvers, using what appeared to be makeshift equipment to create tactical advantages. They had studied our ship designs, identified blind spots in our defensive grids, and modified their approach vectors to exploit every weakness. But more disturbing than their tactical evolution, Kextar continued, was their technological adaptation. Remember, these were supposed to be converted civilian vessels, yet when our sensors analyzed them during the second engagement, we found they had somehow integrated our own technology into their ships. Chancellor Vorth's crystalline form flickered with surprise. That's impossible. Our technology requires specific interfaces, trained operators, and years of technical education to implement properly. That's what our engineers said too, the Admiral replied, until they analyzed the wreckage after the battle. Humans had salvaged components from our destroyed ships at Tau Ceti, and somehow reverse-engineered not just their function, but improved upon their efficiency. Their integration was crude but effective, like weapons built by skilled craftsmen who understood the principles even without formal training. He brought up detailed schematics showing human modifications to coalition technology. They took our energy shield generators and reconfigured them into weapons. They used our communication arrays to create jamming systems that interfered with our targeting computers. Most remarkably, they had somehow copied our hull plating material and applied it to their own vessels using techniques our metallurgists still don't understand. The room buzzed with quiet conversations as the implications became clear. Species typically require decades or centuries to fully understand and implement alien technologies. Humans appeared to be doing it in weeks. The engagement itself lasted 4 hours, Kextar continued. 4 hours during which we watched human tactics evolve in real time. They would try an approach, we would counter it, and within minutes they would adapt and try something completely different. By the end of the battle, they were using maneuvers we had never seen before. Combinations of speed, technology, and teamwork that our military computers couldn't predict or counter effectively. General Thrix studied the tactical displays with professional interest. What were your casualty figures for this engagement? We lost 7 ships completely, with 14 others requiring major repairs. Human losses were significantly higher in terms of numbers, but Kextar paused, his mandibles clicking with distress. But their losses didn't seem to discourage them. If anything, it seemed to make them more determined. The Admiral activated another display showing intelligence reports from the weeks following the second battle. Our reconnaissance probes detected massive industrial activity throughout human space. They weren't just replacing their losses, they were expanding their capabilities exponentially. The data showed construction activities on a scale that defied understanding. Entire asteroid belts being converted into shipyards, planetary surfaces covered with new manufacturing facilities, and most disturbing of all, evidence of rapid technological advancement. Within 1 month of our second engagement, human industrial output had increased by 340%. They had established 17 new shipyards and were producing vessels at a rate that should have been impossible for their technology level. Our analysts initially thought they were simply building more converted civilian craft, but closer examination revealed something far more concerning. The hologram shifted to show new human ship designs, sleek and purpose-built rather than the improvised conversions from earlier battles. They weren't just learning from our technology anymore, they were innovating beyond it. These new vessels incorporated design principles that our own engineers found intriguing enough to study. Chancellor Vorth's form had shifted to a deep purple, indicating alarm. Admiral, are you suggesting that humans advanced their technology by several generations in the span of a single month? I'm suggesting something even more disturbing, Kextar replied. I'm suggesting that warfare itself acts as a catalyst for human development. Every challenge we presented to them, every tactical problem we forced them to solve, seemed to trigger rapid advancement across their entire civilization. He brought up comparative analysis charts showing technological progression rates. Most species, including our own member races, advance incrementally over centuries. Humans appear to make quantum leaps when faced with existential threats. The greater the challenge, the more dramatic their advancement. But surely there are limits to this capability, General Thrix observed. No species can maintain such rapid development indefinitely. Admiral Kextar's expression grew even more haunted. That's what we thought too, General. That's what led to our third major engagement, and the decision that ultimately convinced me that continuing this conflict would be catastrophic for the Coalition. The room fell silent as everyone waited for him to continue. The Admiral seemed to be gathering courage for what he was about to reveal. By the time we launched our third offensive, we had committed significant resources to the human front. Two full battle fleets, our most advanced vessels, and our finest strategic minds. We had studied their previous tactics exhaustively, prepared counters for every maneuver they had demonstrated, and equipped our forces with weapons specifically designed to neutralize their adaptive advantages. The tactical display showed an impressive coalition force, clearly representing a substantial military investment. We approached their home system with overwhelming superiority, confident that even their remarkable adaptability couldn't overcome such a decisive advantage in firepower and technology. The humans met us with a fleet that was completely unlike anything they had fielded before, Kekstar continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. Not just improved versions of their previous designs, but entirely new concepts in spacecraft engineering. They had somehow developed technologies that our scientists had theoretical knowledge of but had never successfully implemented. The Kekstar holographic display showed human vessels that appeared to bend the laws of physics, moving in ways that should have been impossible, utilizing energy sources that the Coalition's most advanced civilizations were still researching. That was when we realized the true scope of what we were facing, the Admiral concluded. Humans don't just adapt to challenges, they transcend them, and every battle we fought was teaching them to transcend us. The silence in the recording chamber stretched uncomfortably as Admiral Kekstar prepared to describe the third engagement. His 6 arms moved restlessly, adjusting controls on his datapad with mechanical precision while his compound eyes stared at something beyond the present moment. The third battle changed everything we thought we knew about the limits of technological advancement, he began, his voice carrying a weight that made the other officers unconsciously lean forward. We entered the Sol system with the largest Coalition fleet assembled in over 50 years. 237 vessels of various classes, including our newest Dreadnought-class ships equipped with technology from 12 different Coalition species. The holographic display materialized, showing the massive Coalition fleet in battle formation. The assembled ships represented centuries of technological development from across the galaxy, a demonstration of military might that should have been overwhelming against any single-world civilization. Our strategic computers calculated victory probabilities at 99.7%, Kekstar continued. Even accounting for human adaptability and their surprising technological growth, the sheer scale of our advantage seemed insurmountable. Our intelligence suggested they had perhaps 50 operational vessels, modified civilian craft with some captured Coalition technology. General Thrix studied the display with professional interest. Those odds seem reasonable given the technological and numerical disparity. What was your initial tactical approach? Standard overwhelming force doctrine, the Admiral replied. Establish superiority at the system's edge, advance in formation toward their primary world, and force surrender through demonstration of impossible odds. We expected the humans to attempt some form of guerrilla action, possibly sacrificial attacks to delay our advance while they evacuated their population centers. The display shifted to show the Coalition fleet's advance into the Sol system, moving in perfect formation through the outer planetary orbits. For the first several hours, everything proceeded according to plan. We detected human vessels at extreme sensor range, but their numbers appeared consistent with our intelligence estimates. Perhaps 60 ships total positioned near their 4th planet. Our scouts reported that human fleet composition matched previous engagements, converted civilian vessels with improvised weapon systems. Chancellor Vorth's crystalline form flickered with impatience. Admiral, you've described what sounds like a conventional engagement so far. What made this battle different? Kekstar's mandibles clicked in what his species used as bitter laughter. What made it different, Chancellor, was that humans had learned to lie to our sensors. The holographic display suddenly changed, showing the same tactical situation but with completely different readings. Where moments before there had been 60 human ships, now there were hundreds. As we approached the inner system, what we had identified as asteroids, derelict spacecraft, and even stellar debris revealed themselves to be camouflaged human vessels. They had developed stealth technology that could fool our most sophisticated detection systems, not through advanced materials or energy fields, but through pure deception. The recording showed Coalition officers frantically recalculating tactical positions as their sensor displays filled with previously undetected human craft. But even more disturbing than their numbers was their positioning. They hadn't just hidden individual ships, they had concealed an entire three-dimensional battlefield. Admiral Kextar activated a different view of the engagement, showing the human positions from multiple angles. They had spent months preparing this system as a trap. Every major asteroid had been hollowed out and converted into a weapons platform. Orbital installations around their planets weren't just defensive positions. They were manufacturing facilities producing ships and weapons in real time during the battle. General Thrix's metallic features shifted to express disbelief. Real-time manufacturing during active combat? That's logistically impossible. The power requirements alone would be tremendous, not to mention the coordination needed to. That's what our tactical computers said too, Kextar interrupted. Right up until human ships started emerging from asteroid facilities that were assembling them faster than we could destroy them. They had somehow converted their entire star system into a weapon. The holographic display showed the true scope of human preparation. Mining operations had been converted to mass-produce spacecraft components. Orbital mirrors focused solar energy to power manufacturing systems. Even the system's gas giant had been equipped with facilities harvesting raw materials from its atmosphere. But the most remarkable aspect wasn't their industrial capacity, the Admiral continued. It was their tactical integration. Every human ship, from the largest converted hauler to the smallest fighter craft, operated as part of a unified whole. They demonstrated coordination that suggested either incredible training or... He paused, accessing another set of data files. Our communications specialists eventually identified the source of their coordination. Humans had developed a real-time information-sharing network that connected every ship, every station, and every individual combatant into a single tactical entity. Chancellor Vorth's form shifted to deep blue, indicating intense focus. You're describing a hive mind network. Several species have attempted such systems, but the complexity usually results in decision paralysis rather than enhanced coordination. Not a hive mind, Kextar corrected. Something more sophisticated. Each human retained individual initiative and creativity, but they shared tactical information instantaneously across their entire force. They could coordinate like a single organism while maintaining the unpredictability of individuals. The tactical display showed human forces executing maneuvers of stunning complexity, with hundreds of vessels moving in perfect harmony while still maintaining the chaotic unpredictability that had characterized their earlier engagements. The engagement lasted 14 hours, the Admiral continued. 14 hours during which we watched human tactics evolve not just between battles, but during the battle itself. They would observe our responses to their maneuvers and immediately share that information across their entire fleet. Within minutes, hundreds of human ships would be implementing countermeasures to tactics we had just developed. General Thrix leaned back, his processors clearly working to comprehend the implications. Admiral, you're describing adaptive capabilities that exceed anything in our tactical databases. How did your forces respond to such dynamic opposition? We adapted as best we could, Kextar replied grimly. Our squadron commanders demonstrated exceptional flexibility. Our crews performed beyond expectations, and our technology functioned flawlessly. Under normal circumstances, we would have achieved victory despite challenging odds. He paused, activating displays showing coalition casualties and damage reports. But these weren't normal circumstances. By the end of the engagement, we had lost 43 vessels completely destroyed and 78 more requiring extensive repairs. Human losses were higher in absolute terms, but the display showed human industrial activity continuing even during active combat. But they were replacing their losses faster than we could inflict them. Their manufacturing systems continued operating throughout the battle, producing new ships and weapons while we fought their existing forces. More disturbing still, the Admiral continued, was that their newest vessels, the ones built during the battle itself, incorporated countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize weapons and tactics we had used earlier. In the same engagement, they were learning from our attacks and building defenses against them within hours. The holographic recording showed sleek human craft emerging from manufacturing facilities, their designs clearly incorporating real-time battlefield intelligence. Some carried armor configurations optimized against specific coalition weapons. Others mounted weapon systems that seemed specifically designed to exploit particular vulnerabilities in coalition ship designs. By the engagement's end, we faced an enemy that had grown stronger throughout the battle, Kextar concluded. not just in numbers but in capability, coordination, and technological sophistication. We had entered the system with overwhelming advantages and left having barely achieved a tactical stalemate. The recording chamber fell silent as the assembled officers absorbed the implications of what they had heard. The idea of an enemy that became more dangerous as battles progressed challenged fundamental assumptions about military strategy and conflict resolution. "Admiral," Chancellor Vorth said finally, "you mentioned this was the engagement that convinced you to recommend cessation of hostilities. What specifically made you reach that conclusion?" Kekstar's compound eyes seemed to focus on memories of something terrible. "Because, Chancellor, the humans sent us a message as we withdrew from their system. Not a threat, not a demand for surrender, but an invitation. They thanked us for the educational experience and suggested we return any time we wanted to help them advance their civilization further." The recording chamber's atmosphere grew heavier as Admiral Kekstar's words sank in. Chancellor Vorth's crystalline form had shifted to a deep, troubled purple, while General Thrix's metallic features displayed processing patterns indicating deep analysis of the tactical implications. "Admiral," the Chancellor said slowly, "you're suggesting that humans view military conflict as a form of education rather than existential threat. That seems psychologically improbable for any species." Kekstar's mandibles clicked in what might have been agreement or despair. "That's what I thought initially, Chancellor. But the evidence forced me to reconsider everything I believed I understood about species psychology under stress conditions." He activated new displays showing intercepts of human communications during and after the Third Battle. Our intelligence division managed to decode fragments of human military communications. What we discovered challenged our fundamental assumptions about how intelligent species respond to warfare. The holographic display showed translated human communication transcripts, the words themselves seeming innocuous but their implications staggering. "Look at these excerpts from human command channels during the height of battle. Instead of panic, desperation, or even normal military efficiency, we found discussions of how coalition tactics might inspire new approaches to their own ship designs." General Thrix leaned forward to study the communications data. "These readings suggest humans were analyzing our weapon systems and tactical formations, even while under fire. That level of detached observation during life-threatening situations indicates either remarkable discipline or a fundamental psychological difference in how they process existential threats," Kekstar finished. "Our behavioral analysts initially dismissed these intercepts as propaganda or misdirection, but subsequent analysis confirmed their authenticity." He brought up psychological profile data comparing human behavioral patterns with those of established coalition species. "Every known intelligent species responds to existential threats with variations of the same basic pattern: assessment, adaptation, survival focus, and either victory or submission. Humans appear to add an additional component: opportunity analysis. The data showed brain scan equivalents from captured human pilots, revealing neural activity patterns unlike anything in coalition databases. Where other species show stress, responses, and survival instincts under combat conditions, humans show what our xenopsychologists describe as constructive excitement. They seem to find life-threatening situations intellectually stimulating." Chancellor Vorth's form flickered with confusion. "Admiral, are you suggesting humans enjoy warfare? Many species have aggressive tendencies, but enjoying existential threats seems evolutionarily counterproductive." "Not enjoying warfare exactly," Kekstar clarified, "but thriving under the extreme conditions that warfare creates. Our analysis suggests that humans evolved in an environment where constant adaptation to threats was necessary for survival. Instead of developing psychological mechanisms to cope with stress, they developed mechanisms to use stress as a catalyst for advancement." The displays shifted to show comparative evolutionary data, contrasting human development with other species. Most coalition species evolved in relatively stable environments where gradual development and social cooperation provided survival advantages. Humans apparently evolved on a planet where rapid adaptation to changing threats was the primary survival trait. He brought up recordings from interrogations of captured human personnel, their responses providing insight into their psychological makeup. When questioned about their willingness to engage in apparently suicidal attacks, human prisoners consistently expressed the same sentiment, that facing overwhelming odds was interesting and provided opportunities to see what we're capable of. General Thrix's processors whirred with activity as he analyzed the psychological profiles. Admiral, if these analyses are accurate, humans may be psychologically incapable of surrender in the traditional sense. They don't view defeat as an ending but as information about how to improve their next attempt. Exactly, Kextar confirmed grimly. Which brings me to the most disturbing discovery from our post-battle analysis. The humans hadn't just been defending their system, they had been studying us systematically throughout the engagement. New displays showed detailed technical analyses that human forces had apparently conducted during the battle. While fighting for their lives, human technicians were collecting detailed scans of our weapon systems, shield configurations, hull compositions, and tactical decision patterns. They weren't just trying to win the battle, they were documenting everything they needed to know to win the next war. The assembled officers studied the data in shocked silence. The implications were staggering. An enemy that used every engagement as both combat and research, growing stronger through defeat as well as victory. But perhaps most concerning, the Admiral continued, was what our intelligence officers discovered about human industrial planning during this period. They weren't just building weapons to fight us, they were building infrastructure to fight everyone. The holographic displays showed intelligence gathered from deep space reconnaissance probes, revealing human activities throughout their local stellar region. Within months of our third engagement, humans had established manufacturing facilities in 17 different star systems. Not colonies for population expansion, but industrial platforms specifically designed for resource extraction and military production. Chancellor Vorth leaned forward, her crystalline form now pulsing with alarm. Admiral, are you suggesting humans were preparing for conflict with the entire coalition? I'm suggesting something more disturbing than that, Kextar replied. Our strategic computers analyzed human expansion patterns and industrial capabilities. They weren't preparing to fight the coalition as it exists today. They were preparing to fight the coalition as it might exist after decades of technological advancement. The displays showed projection models that made the assembled officers uncomfortable. Human industrial growth curves extended far beyond what should have been possible, suggesting preparation for conflicts involving technologies that even advanced coalition species were still developing. Humans appear to think in terms of centuries rather than years when planning military campaigns, the Admiral explained. They were building weapons to fight enemies they hadn't encountered yet, developing technologies to counter threats that don't currently exist and establishing industrial capabilities that assume conflict will continue indefinitely. General Thrix's metallic features shifted to express something resembling horror. Admiral, you're describing a species that views warfare not as a means to achieve political objectives, but as a permanent condition requiring eternal preparation. Which brings me to the final element that convinced me to recommend immediate cessation of hostilities, Kextar said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. The humans sent a diplomatic mission to our forward base 3 days after the battle. The room fell silent as everyone waited for him to continue. The idea of humans sending diplomats after such a brutal engagement seemed surreal. The diplomatic team consisted of 12 representatives from various human organizations. Military, leaders, scientists, industrial managers, and what they called systems analysts. They arrived in a single unarmed vessel and requested permission to meet with our command staff. He activated recordings from that diplomatic meeting, showing humans who appeared calm, professional, and unnervingly friendly despite having recently been engaged in mortal combat with coalition forces. The lead diplomat thanked us for the valuable learning experience and proposed what she called a strategic partnership. Humans wanted to offer their services as military consultants to coalition member species, sharing the technological innovations they had developed during our conflicts. The recording showed human representatives presenting detailed technical specifications for weapons, defensive systems, and industrial processes that were clearly beyond current coalition capabilities. They offered to teach us their rapid adaptation techniques, share their manufacturing technologies, and provide strategic consulting services for any future conflicts the coalition might face. In exchange, they wanted only one thing: access to our military databases and tactical archives from conflicts throughout galactic history. The implications hit the assembled officers simultaneously. Humans weren't just learning from their own conflicts. They wanted to learn from every conflict that had ever occurred, turning the entire military history of galactic civilization into educational material for their advancement. That was when I understood the true nature of what we were facing, Admiral Kextar concluded. Humans don't just adapt to warfare. They collect it, study it, and use it to prepare for conflicts that haven't been imagined yet. Fighting them isn't just futile, it's actively helping them become more dangerous to everyone. The weight of Admiral Kextar's revelations settled over the recording chamber like a physical force. Chancellor Vorth's crystalline form had cycled through several colors, finally settling on a deep, troubled red that indicated severe concern among her species. General Thrix's processing indicators showed continuous high-level analysis, his metallic features configured in patterns suggesting profound strategic recalculation. Admiral, Chancellor Vorth said carefully, you've described capabilities that seem to violate fundamental principles of technological and social development. Before we proceed with recommendations that could reshape coalition policy, we need to understand the mechanisms behind human advancement. Kextar nodded, his compound eyes reflecting patterns that indicated both understanding and dread. I anticipated that question, Chancellor. After the diplomatic meeting, I authorized a comprehensive analysis of human development patterns using our most advanced anthropological and technological assessment teams. He activated new displays showing detailed studies of human civilization across multiple disciplines. What we discovered challenged not just our understanding of this particular species, but our basic assumptions about the relationship between conflict and advancement in intelligent civilizations. The holographic data showed comparative development curves for dozens of species, all following similar patterns of gradual technological progression, interrupted by occasional breakthrough periods. Then it showed the human curve, which resembled nothing in the Coalition's extensive databases. Every known species develops along predictable trajectories, Kextar explained. Periods of stable advancement punctuated by occasional discoveries that accelerate development temporarily before returning to normal progression rates. Human development appears to follow an entirely different model. General Thrix studied the comparative data with professional fascination. Admiral, this suggests human advancement accelerates exponentially during stress periods rather than following normal discovery patterns. How is such rapid development possible without causing social collapse or resource depletion? That question led to one of our most disturbing discoveries, the Admiral replied grimly. Humans appear to have evolved social and economic systems that are specifically designed to channel conflict stress into productive development. Instead of warfare disrupting their civilization, it seems to optimize it. The displays shifted to show analyses of human social organization during conflict periods. Our sociologists identified several mechanisms that allow humans to convert military pressure into civilian advancement. They call it crisis-driven innovation, and it appears to be a fundamental characteristic of their species. Chancellor Vorth leaned forward, her crystalline form pulsing with interest. Admiral, please elaborate on these mechanisms. Understanding how humans achieve such rapid development could have implications beyond our current conflict. Kextar activated detailed breakdowns of human society during wartime. First, humans demonstrate remarkable resource mobilization capabilities. When faced with existential threats, they can redirect substantial portions of their civilization toward specific objectives within extremely short time frames. Our analysts calculated that during our conflicts, humans reallocated over 60% of their total industrial capacity toward military-related research and production. The data showed human economic activity during the conflict period, revealing transformations that should have taken decades occurring within months. But more significantly, humans seem to experience what they call breakthrough cascade effects during high-stress periods. Individual innovations trigger related discoveries across multiple disciplines simultaneously. He brought up examples of human technological leaps during their conflict period. When humans developed new materials for ship hulls to counter our weapons, those same materials sparked advances in their construction industry, medical technology, and even artistic applications. Every military innovation seemed to generate civilian applications that accelerated their overall technological base. General Thrix's processors hummed with activity as he analyzed the cascade patterns. "Admiral, you're describing a development model where stress-driven innovation produces benefits across the entire technological spectrum, rather than just solving immediate problems. That would explain their exponential advancement rates." "Precisely," Kextar confirmed. "But the most remarkable aspect is their information distribution systems. Humans have developed methods for sharing technological breakthroughs across their entire civilization. Within days of discovery, when one group solves a problem, every other group immediately has access to that solution and begins developing improvements." The holographic displays showed human communication networks during conflict periods, revealing information flows that connected research facilities, manufacturing centers, and military units in real time. They call it open source development. And it means that every human innovation immediately becomes available to their entire species for further advancement. Chancellor Vorth's form shifted to deep purple, indicating profound concern. "Admiral, if humans can distribute and improve upon innovations in real time across their entire civilization, then every conflict makes them exponentially more dangerous not just to current opponents, but to all future opponents." "That's precisely the conclusion our strategic analysis team reached," Kextar replied. "But the implications extend beyond their technological capabilities. Our xenopsychologists discovered that humans actually become more cooperative and socially cohesive under external pressure. While most species experience social fragmentation during conflicts, humans demonstrate increased unity and shared purpose. The displays showed analyses of human social behavior during the conflict period, revealing cooperation levels that exceeded peacetime measurements. During our engagements, human civilian populations voluntarily redirected personal resources toward military objectives. Research facilities shared proprietary information freely, and competing organizations coordinated their efforts without apparent coercion. General Thrix leaned back, his metallic features reflecting deep thought. "Admiral, you're describing a species where external threats trigger positive feedback loops across military, technological, and social systems simultaneously. That would make them uniquely suited to not just survive conflicts, but to emerge stronger from every engagement. Which brings me to our most disturbing discovery," Kextar said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Our long-range reconnaissance probes detected human activity in star systems far beyond their original territory. They weren't just expanding their industrial base. They were establishing what appeared to be research. Stations focused on studying coalition technology and tactics. The holographic displays showed deep space installations that clearly represented massive investments in long-term strategic planning. These facilities weren't designed for immediate military purposes. They were research complexes specifically built to analyze and improve upon technologies and strategies encountered during our conflicts." He brought up detailed scans of human research installations. "Our intelligence analysis suggests these stations were designed to study not just coalition capabilities, but theoretical advanced technologies that don't currently exist. Humans were using our conflicts as starting points for research programs aimed at countering threats they hadn't yet encountered." Chancellor Vorth's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. "Admiral, are you suggesting humans were preparing to fight advanced civilizations they had never met, using our conflicts as educational foundations for hypothetical future wars?" "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Kextar replied grimly. "And our strategic computers calculated the implications of such preparation. If humans continue developing at current rates, within 50 standard years they will possess technological capabilities that exceed current coalition maximums by several orders of magnitude." The room fell silent as the assembled officers absorbed the long-term implications. The idea of a single species advancing beyond the collective capabilities of galactic civilization within decades challenged fundamental assumptions about technological development and military balance. "But the most terrifying aspect," the Admiral continued, "is that our conflicts with humans have already started triggering these cascade effects throughout their civilization. Every battle we fought didn't just make them more dangerous to us, it made them more dangerous to everyone. He activated final displays showing projections of human capabilities based on observed development patterns. Our strategic analysis suggests that humans are not just learning to fight the coalition more effectively, they are learning to fight any advanced civilization more effectively. Every engagement teaches them principles that apply to warfare against any technologically superior enemy. General Thrix studied the projections with growing concern. Admiral, if these calculations are accurate, humans represent a potential threat to galactic stability itself, not through aggressive expansion, but through their capacity to destabilize the technological and military balance that maintains peace between coalition species.
The recording chamber maintained its heavy silence for long moments after Admiral Kekstar's final revelation. The assembled officials seemed to be processing information that challenged their fundamental understanding of interspecies relations and military strategy. Chancellor Vorth's crystalline form had settled into a deep, pulsing crimson that indicated her species' equivalent of profound anxiety. "Admiral," she said finally, her voice carrying harmonics that suggested careful consideration of each word. "You've presented information that, if accurate, fundamentally alters the Coalition's strategic position regarding human space. However, the implications of your recommendations extend far beyond a single territorial dispute." Kekstar nodded slowly, his compound eyes reflecting the weight of his conclusions. "I understand the magnitude of what I'm suggesting, Chancellor. I've spent months analyzing every alternative, consulting with our finest strategic minds, and examining every possible approach to the human question. The conclusion remains the same. Continued conflict with humans represents an existential threat, not just to the Coalition, but to the stability of galactic civilization." General Thrix's metallic features shifted to display patterns, indicating deep calculation. "Admiral, let us examine the logical alternatives to your recommendation. If we cease hostilities as you suggest, we effectively acknowledge that a single world species can dictate terms to the entire galactic coalition. The precedent alone could destabilize our authority throughout coalition space." "That's one perspective," Kekstar replied. "But consider the alternative. If we continue military action against humans, we provide them with increasingly sophisticated opponents to study and overcome. Every coalition species we deploy against them becomes a source of new technologies and tactics for their development programs." He activated new displays, showing theoretical progression models. "Our strategic computers have calculated the likely outcomes of continued conflict. Within 10 standard years of sustained warfare, humans will have access to the combined military technologies of every coalition species they encounter. Within 20 years, they will likely have developed countermeasures for every known coalition weapon system." The holographic projection showed branching probability, trees that made uncomfortable reading. In every scenario involving continued conflict, human capabilities grew exponentially, while coalition advantages steadily eroded, but perhaps more significantly, the Admiral continued. "Continued warfare will force humans to develop technologies and strategies specifically designed to defeat advanced galactic civilizations. Instead of learning to defend themselves against us, they will learn to conquer species like us." Chancellor Vorth's form flickered with patterns indicating deep concern. "Admiral, you're suggesting that our attempts to contain human expansion could inadvertently create the very threat we seek to prevent. I'm stating it as established fact based on observed evidence." Kekstar corrected firmly. "Humans don't just adapt to overcome immediate threats. They develop capabilities to overcome entire categories of future threats. Every battle teaches them not just how to fight us, but how to fight anyone like us." He brought up intelligence reports from the period following their diplomatic contact with human representatives. "Since our last engagement, human deep space activities have expanded to include reconnaissance of 17 different coalition member worlds. Not military reconnaissance, but what appears to be comprehensive civilization analysis. The data showed human probes conducting detailed studies of coalition worlds, examining everything from industrial capabilities to social structures to biological characteristics of different species. Humans aren't just learning to fight coalition military forces. They're learning to understand coalition civilizations so thoroughly that they could predict our responses. 2 threats we haven't encountered yet. General Thrix leaned forward to study the reconnaissance data. Admiral, this level of intelligence gathering suggests preparation for conflicts far beyond our current territorial dispute. Are humans planning aggressive action against coalition worlds? That's the truly disturbing aspect, Kextar replied. Based on their communications, intercepts, and diplomatic statements, humans appear to have no aggressive intentions toward coalition space. They seem genuinely interested in peaceful coexistence and technological exchange. The paradox of his statement hung in the air as the assembled officials struggled to reconcile peaceful intentions with such comprehensive military preparation. Humans appear to view their military development as purely defensive, the Admiral explained, but their definition of defense includes being prepared for conflicts with any conceivable opponent, using any imaginable technology. They're not preparing to attack us. They're preparing to defend against anything we might become. Chancellor Vorth's crystalline form pulsed with confused patterns. Admiral, how do humans justify such extensive military preparation if they have no aggressive intentions? Kextar activated recordings from human diplomatic communications. The translated text revealing thought processes that challenged coalition understanding of military psychology. According to human strategic doctrine, the best way to prevent wars is to be so thoroughly prepared for them that potential aggressors conclude conflict would be futile. They call it peace through superior preparation. The philosophical implications of human strategic thinking became clear as the Admiral continued his analysis. Humans believe that if they can demonstrate the ability to defeat any possible opponent, no one will attempt to fight them. They view their military advancement as a service to galactic peace. But the practical result, General Thrix observed, is the development of capabilities that could threaten galactic stability regardless of human intentions. Superior preparation for hypothetical conflicts creates actual capabilities for real conflicts. Precisely, Kextar agreed. Which brings me to the most critical aspect of our current situation. The humans have made it clear that they will continue their military development programs regardless of coalition actions. The only question is whether that development will be accelerated by active conflict or proceed at their natural rate during peacetime. He brought up comparative development projections, showing human advancement under different scenarios. If we cease hostilities immediately, humans will continue advancing at what we might call their baseline exponential rate. If we continue military action, their advancement accelerates dramatically through conflict-driven innovation. The projections showed timelines that made the choice clear from a purely strategic perspective. Peaceful coexistence might delay human technological superiority by decades, while continued conflict would accelerate it to within years. Furthermore, the Admiral continued, humans have indicated willingness to share certain technologies with coalition species under peaceful conditions. Not their most advanced military systems, but civilian applications of their conflict-driven innovations. Technologies that could benefit all coalition member civilizations. Chancellor Vorth's form shifted to deep blue, is indicating intense consideration. Admiral, you're suggesting that cooperation with humans might provide access to their remarkable development capabilities, while avoiding the acceleration effects of continued conflict. I'm suggesting that we face a binary choice. Kextar replied solemnly. We can recognize human autonomy, establish peaceful relations, and potentially benefit from their technological advancement. Or we can continue military action and guarantee that humans will develop capabilities that make them the dominant military force in this galactic region within the foreseeable future. The recording chamber fell silent as the assembled officials contemplated the implications of that choice. General Thrix was the first to speak, his metallic voice carrying overtones of reluctant acceptance. Admiral, based on your analysis, continued military action appears to serve no strategic purpose and carries unacceptable risks to coalition security. However, accepting human autonomy without conditions could establish precedents that undermine coalition authority throughout our territories, which is why Kextar said, activating his final set of displays, I recommend a third approach. The humans have proposed what they call a strategic partnership with the coalition, not submission to our authority, but cooperation as equals in maintaining galactic stability. The proposals show detailed frameworks for technological exchange, mutual defense agreements, and cooperative research programs that would benefit both human and coalition civilizations while avoiding the risks of continued conflict. Humans offer to share specific technologies and strategic insights in exchange for access to coalition scientific databases and cultural exchanges. They propose joint research programs that could advance all participating civilizations while maintaining human independence. Chancellor Vorth studied the partnership proposal carefully, her crystalline form cycling through colors that indicated complex evaluation processes. Admiral, this proposal essentially acknowledges humans as equals to the entire galactic coalition despite their single-world origin. The political implications are staggering. Less staggering than the alternative, Kekstar replied grimly. We can accept humans as partners now, or face them as an existential threat later. Those appear to be our only realistic options. The Admiral stood, his 6 arms spreading in a gesture that indicated the completion of his testimony. I've presented all relevant data and analysis, honored officials. The choice before the coalition is clear. Adapt to the reality of human capabilities, or risk creating the very threat we sought to prevent. The recording chamber fell into profound silence as the weight of that choice settled over everyone present. The decision they faced would reshape not just coalition policy toward humans, but the fundamental balance of power in galactic civilization.